In today's episode, we make this overlay. So today I was watching a Phil D video and I seen a overlay that he was using. Let me show you here quick. Up here in this corner, just a little line that whips around and then some font comes in and then it stays there for a little bit and the two animations play backwards. So we're gonna make that quick. So up here I have a quick clip that I'm just going to be using. So let's just say that this is the footage that you currently have in your project. I next need to get a logo, and all I do is just put an Instagram logo, search, and typically you would see it would look like this. But all of these logos, well, I don't know if all of them, but the majority of these logos just have white backgrounds. So what you're gonna wanna do is click on this Tools, Color, Transparent, and then all of these now have a transparent background. So if you click on one, what you'll see is it's displayed like a normal logo, but when it's displayed over here, what you can see is that there's the checkering, and the checkering just means that it's transparent, it's see-through. And all of these are also like that. So I was just looking through here and I believe I grabbed this one here. So I just grabbed this one. The resolution is a bit big, but that's perfectly fine. And we'll just use this one. So just save this, just right click and then save image. And so let me pull that into our project. Just drop it into our project and there we go. Now we have that. The next thing that I want to do is find a location that I want this little thing to pop out at, and let's say it's going to be right here, or no, let's say it's going to be let's just do it at 5 seconds. So right there, 5 seconds, and we'll just take this to 10, so it's a complete 5 seconds. And as you can see, this goes to 29. If you don't know what this is, these last numbers right here are the frame numbers. So currently I am running a 30 frames per second timeline. So this will count up to 30. And then once it gets to 30, it goes to 0. And the reason why to know that is because when we're working in Fusion, we're going to be setting things on we're doing our animations, they're going to be set on frame numbers. So that's just something to be aware of. All right, so now I have my shot here. I'm going to grab my Instagram logo, add that right on top, and then I'm going to highlight both of them, right click on them, new Fusion clip, click on that, and it combines them both into one clip. And then if we go over into Fusion now, what we'll see is both of those, and they'll be in two nodes. So media 1, if I hit 1, it'll play in viewer 1 here. So I'll hit 1, so that's the background, and it's shown by the yellow, which means the background, and then the foreground is green. And if we play that one by hitting 1 again, now we see it over here. And in the second player, as you can see down here, this is everything combined together with this merge. So let's add the other elements for this. So we're just going to grab a background node, and then we're going to grab a rectangle mask. We're going to connect these two together. Then we're going to drag from this background the output. So we're going to drag from the output of this background and drop it on the output of this merge. And then what will happen is this background layer will then be the foreground of this over here. And because there's a rectangle, it's masked out this little area for whatever this background is. So we can change the color of this and that will change whatever this background is. If we don't have the rectangle, it would be the whole screen. But since we do, it limits it to just that area. Okay, so now on our rectangle, we're going to just size this up. Actually, I think that would be fine. We're just gonna make this a little smaller. And we're gonna bring it up to the corner here that we want it to go. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit of rounding here on the sides for the corners. And I don't know how big I want this, so I'm going to add in a text node. I'm just going to connect that here, so then this is laying on top of everything that we've built so far. Then the text node, I'm just going to put my Instagram, which is at Mr. JRTV. Change the font quick. Whoops. Okay, that looks about right. I just am using this now to make sure that it's the right size. So I just grab the middle point to move it around, and that looks fine. I'm completely content with the size of that. I might actually move it over just a little bit. So we'll grab our rectangle here, just drag it over just a little bit because I need to still add the this logo in here. And you'll see that further on. Okay, so now we have everything looks like it's the right size. I'm just gonna drag this out so it's not so confusing. Actually, I'm just going to disconnect it so we don't see it at all. So with this rectangle, I'm just going to move it up a little bit. And because everything looks good in that rectangle currently, I'm just going to click on it, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And now I just added another rectangle, but because it's a mask inside of a mask, we now have different modes that we can set. So we're going to add a subtract node. So anything that this particular node is touching, it's going to subtract it. Because both of these nodes are the same size, it's just subtracting everything. So now I'm going to change the height and bring this in just a little bit. So I think that looks pretty good. Hit that right on the money. I'm going to save it quick. Now I can add this in again and move it up, and I think I would be able to fit that in there. So I'm just moving I'm moving around the whole frame by just holding down middle mouse button. To zoom in and out, I'm holding Control and mouse wheeling in and out. So that's looking pretty good so far. The next thing that I'm going to need to do is take this logo and change the size of it. So currently we have both of these going into this merge. Because the node that has the logo is the foreground, the controls in this merge I can use to manipulate that foreground layer. So I can move the size down and I can just place it right up here. And we're just going to set it right in there like that. And that's looking pretty good. Now that I have everything here, I could adjust actually, I think I'm going to change the size of this as well. And to fine tune, when I'm moving this to fine tune adjust, you're gonna hold Control, be a bit more sensitive. So you'll need more movement of the mouse to it'll be fine tuned, so then you'll have to move the mouse more. Okay, and let's go up just a little bit. There, I think that's perfect. Okay, so now that we have that, let's fit here. At this point, we have it, but we could add some animation to it. So let's do that quick. All right, so now moving our playhead back to, let's say 1. First thing that I'm going to animate is I'm going to animate the line. So all of this stuff here is currently the line. And because it's the foreground, I can add a mask to this merge to manipulate the foreground stuff, elements. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on this merge. I'm going to hit Shift Spacebar to bring up our search. And we're going to type in paint. And we're going to pull up the paint mask. So now we have this paint mask. And I'll just put it down here. And now in the paint mask, I can't see that line anymore because currently it's not a part of this mask, so it doesn't show. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take this background node and I'm going to play the background node here. So I'm just clicking on here, and I click 2 so I can play it here. I'm gonna click on my mask node now, playing this node, but I'm clicking on the mask so I can see it, because this merge is affecting how this background's working, but I can just play this background. So I'm going to have in this window, I'm just going to have this background so I can see it. So now in my mask, I'm going to click right here to add a line so I can add a path. And I just shifted it over by holding middle mouse wheel in. I'm just going to follow along this line like that. And then I can click this button here to close it. Now, if I play this last node, now we can see it again. And that's because this mask will now allow that to be seen. The cool thing with the paint node is now I can do this right on. And if we look at this, we can write that little line back on. Okay, so that's how we're going to be animating it, by animating this endpoint here. So currently we're at frame, as you can see right here, frame 1. Clicking on the mask, I'm going to click on to start the keyframes. I'm going to bring this down to 0. And then we're going to go up to frame, let's do frame 17, sure. And we're just going to bring it to the end. Whoops. We're just going to bring the end to the end, so we have 0 and 1. And now, I just click so we don't see that line. Now we can see that line being added on. Okay. So now we have that. We can play it. We can see that line. Looks great. While I'm already in here, I'm just going to add the out, because I want this to all disappear, and it's all going to disappear the same way that it came on. So let's 49 is the last frame, so let's go to 35. I'm just pulling these out of nowhere. You can set it however you want, whatever you see fit. Then I'm going to go to 48. 48, I'm going to bring it down. So I'll just come here, and it's going down. Let's come back to the end and see how quick that goes by. Oh, it looks good. If you needed to adjust, your keyframes, just click on the spline editor, and then we were manipulating mask paint 1, which is this one, and it's already selected. Then click this button to see all your keyframes, and then you'll be able to manipulate the keyframes if you wanted to. Okay, so now we have the line coming on and leaving. Now we need to do the same for the text and the logo. So we could take both of these elements and make them into one with a merge. So we would just have these two merge together and then be a part of the rest of everything, or we can add them separately. And I think I'm going to do them separately because I want the logo to bounce. So I want it to come in and do a little bounce and then settle down. So let's go into our text here. And our text node, we can come over to our point, and let's have it when the whole thing's up. So our whole thing's up by here. We're going to just come in a little bit further because we already have it adjusted. We're just gonna, so where does that end? That ends like frame 17, or yeah, that ends like 16, 17. So we're gonna come up to, let's do 17. Gonna have a keyframe there, and then 17. Let's go 10 frames, so 27. Now I just want to come back to here. The reason why I added this frame, just because it's in a good position, and I want to add that keyframe so I don't have to find that spot again, because I just want it to move back and forth. I don't want it to, you know, creep up or anything like that and get all wonky. So I'm just going to come back to frame 17 now and just move it off the screen, and it goes around, and then that comes on. we can go to the other end here. It's disappearing. So before, or actually let's have it like right here is when it starts leaving. And then by the time it gets, let's say here, it's already gone. Okay. So there's that. Let's play this. Okay. So it played on here, but one thing that you'll notice is when it plays, this text just moves back and forth clean. It doesn't have any motion blur, like it's moving quick. So let's add some motion blur. Now this is completely up to you. It will use more resources to render this, but it looks a lot better. And if you want to add it, you could add it in after everything else is done. And then you could add it in so it's not slowing down your machine when you're previewing everything. But yeah, just wanted to let you know that. So coming here to the end, clicking on here, we're on the text one, clicking motion blur, and the quality is just the quality of the blur. As you can see here, it's blurry, but you can see like hard lines. If you move the quality up, it's going to use more resources. It's going to take a little longer to render. If you have quicker equipment, it won't be that noticeable moving this up, but that is something to be aware of. So once you move it up, what you notice is that it starts to look a bit better like an actual blur instead of being very like steppy like that. So I'm just gonna move it up to, let's say 8. 8 looks great. And we will put this to fit again. Now anytime that moves, it's gonna have that motion blur. As you can see, it chugged there a little bit when I was making its preview. But yeah, so now I have it there. And then the motion blur will be affected there at the end as well. Okay, so the last thing I need to do is move the logo. So here is the logo, media in 2, and I can see that by clicking on it and playing it in one of the players. We'll put this back over here. And because it's a foreground object, this merge, I can affect it. We talked about that before. And now I can come into the center, because that's what this is, the center, and we can adjust it on there. So let's have, so after this already lands, a couple of seconds later, I want the logo to land too. So a couple of seconds after that stops, we want the stopping point for this one, for this as well. And then we will have, zoom out a little bit. We will have this like off screen. Now that should slide in after, and it does. Okay, looks great. You could add motion blur in here as well. That is something you could do. So it's always the object that's moving something is what you want to add the motion blur onto to add the effect. So you want to come into here. If this did have motion blur settings, and you want to, change the motion blur on here, it's the object that's actually doing the movement of said thing. Okay, so now we have the logo coming in, but I said I wanted to add that little bit of a bounce. So we'll just come here to the last keyframe, click on spline. Now we have a bunch of keyframes here. We want to look at the keyframe just for merge 1. So we'll just turn this off and turn text off. And here we have merge 1. Let's see how the speed is first before we manipulate this too much. It comes in, then that comes in. And now let's play this after it's cached. Okay, I'm going to just move this just a little bit. So I'm gonna just click here and move it over. I'm gonna highlight it now and hit F. Now when I hit F, I'll have a little guy here to move this around. And the idea here is when it goes up, it's going to then go past its mark and then back down. So it's going to have a little bit of a bounce. Okay, that's almost a little, that's not enough. So we'll just amp that up just a little bit. Whoa, that'll be too much. Now let's see how this looks. Okay, that might work. Now let's play it. That looks cool. I think I'm cool with that. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Now let's get the out for this. I don't need the spline editor anymore. So everything starts moving here. Let's have the logo move first. So just want to come here, gonna click to add a keyframe because it's, and then by the time it's like there, I want this already off. So let's play this. All right, now let's. All right, so the last thing I want to do is this line isn't doing it for me. So I want to add the Instagram colors to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the background and then click on gradient here. And I'm going to grab the hex colors for the Instagram logo. So the black. So that's the purple. And then the orange. I'm gonna click here, grab this one. And there's the orange. Now I just need to manipulate where our gradient is. So I'm gonna bring this up here and bring this line. So what's happening is from this point to this point, we have the gradient in color. And that's just stating that this line and this is where the gradient happens. If I pull this out further, that gradient is wider. So it takes this and just stretches it out. So I'm just going to move it here and here, make it like the opposite of the logo over here and over here. It looks like there's an orange in there, but I'm just, or a like reddish in there, but I'm just gonna leave that out. Not that concerned. Okay, so that looks good. I'm kind of content with that. So I'm just going to save it. And now in the editor, I now have, once this would cache, my computer's chugging a little bit until I would cache this, but yeah, let's do that quick. Turn on smart caching, come down here, and we change this and make sure that's on standard quality. So our shot. There's our little guy that comes on, and then it leaves. All right, so now we have it. Now let's go into how would we be able to add this to other projects, because if you're gonna make an overlay like this, you're probably gonna wanna add it to other projects. So what I would do is come into Fusion, and currently we're not on the right clip, so just come up here to clip, click on our Fusion clip. Now we're here in clip. We're just gonna move out the media 1 and 2 and the media out over, and we're gonna highlight everything else in between. We're gonna even add the merge 1 because we did add a bunch of keyframes and we changed the size and or the scale and everything. So gonna highlight everything. We're gonna right click, and then we're gonna go to save as. And now we're gonna want to get to this location. And a lot of people, once they get into their username, they say, oh, I can't find app data if you're on Windows. And once you're in your user, you're just gonna come down to this little options and show hidden files. It should say folders and files, but once you do that, then app data is right here and you should be able to get to the rest of the path. So then once you're in here, you can just type in down here anything you want. So I can just put in, let's say IG. Now that it's saved, once you restart DaVinci, you'll have those in there. So I'm gonna restart quick and show you how to get into it. Let's say that we had another little clip right here that we were going to add it into. We're just going to drop our logo in, and it's only 5 seconds. So I'm just going to cut the extra little bit let's say these are my 2 shots. Now there could be a ton of shots, and you could put this, you know, there could be a bunch of shots over here, a bunch of shots over here, but let's say this is where you want that overlay to go. Just click on here, and then we're just going to new fusion clip, drops them both down. Now here, go over to fusion, back to the same little look. We can take this merge and delete it because we have a merge that we're going to use instead. Come up to Effect Library, Templates, Titles, IG, drop that down. Everything's currently highlighted, so I can move it if I need it to. We're gonna break this connection, connect this over to here, and take our endpoint, and we can just play this. So this is our background. We're gonna put that on our background. You can just drag it first, and then it'll go as the background. And then this one is the logo. So we can just drop this on here again, or put it to the green, and then that's the output. And as you see over here, everything looks the same as before. We have all of our animations at the beginning and also here at the end. And you could just come back to the edit tab, and it's already here. And that's pretty much how you would make a title that you can then use in all of your other projects. The cool thing about making it this way is now in Fusion, you can come in and let's say let's come in the middle where we don't have a blur on the name. We could come in here on the name and click on text 1. And if we wanted to, we could change the color of it to something else. And back here, we will then have that. And you know, you could also change the logo if you wanted to. Instead of having this logo, you could put the Twitter logo or the Facebook logo, and it'll downsize it and everything else. And then over here, we have the one that we previously made. So yeah, that's pretty much how to do that. With that being said, let me know in the comments what you think about this one. If there's anything that you'd like to see in the future, let me know that as well down there. And with that being said, my name's JR, and thanks for watching.